after accusing him of espionage. Details of these and more we come to shortly. To stay with us. And now the news in full. President Bola Tinubu has officially requested the Senate's confirmation of Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede as the substantive Chief of Army Staff. The letter read during Tuesday's plenary by Senate President Godswill Akpabio, cited Section 218, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended and Section 18, subsection 1 of the Armed Forces Act as the basis for the confirmation request. General Oluyede was appointed Acting Chief of Army Staff on October 30th following the illness of Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, who passed away on November 5th.
Confirmation of appointment of Lieutenant General O.O. Oluyede as Chief of Army Staff. In accordance with the provisions of Section 218, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, and Section 18, subsection 1 of the Armed Forces Act, I am pleased to forward for confirmation by the Senate the appointment of Lieutenant General Oluyede as the Chief of Army Staff of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Lieutenant General O.O. Oluyede has been serving diligently in an acting capacity since his appointment.
After several postponements, the Port Harcourt refinery has commenced full production. The Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited confirmed this to our correspondent on Tuesday. NNPCL spokesperson Olufemi Shoneye said the loading of trucks would start today. Port Harcourt refinery begins production. Truck loading starts today, Tuesday, Shoneye told our correspondent. He said that today marks a monumental achievement for Nigeria as the Port Harcourt refinery officially commences crude oil processing. This groundbreaking milestone signifies a new era of energy independence and economic growth for our nation. Shoneye revealed that the refinery will operate at 60% capacity and process 60,000 BPD. Now we have joining us live from Lagos State, we have Professor Yemi Oke, who is an oil and gas expert. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Good evening and thanks for having me.
All right, good evening to you too. So let's go straight to the topic of discussion. How do you receive the news of Port Harcourt refinery beginning operation after so many postponements?
Well, it's long overdue, but for me, mixed feelings. Mixed feelings in the sense that we shouldn't ordinarily, as a country, be celebrating what had been in place for decades. Those are the kind of legacy projects that ought to have been sustainably managed by subsequent administrations. But then that wasn't the case. So we've had series of turnaround, turning out, and attempt to pull the Port Harcourt 1 and 2, Kaduna and Warri refineries back on full streams, but we couldn't achieve that. So now that we are celebrating success after repeated failures at rejigging the Port Harcourt refineries, to me, it's not a good news, but it's a positive development, particularly with the disposition of the current administration, which seems to be so determined to right the wrongs in our polity with the kind of approach to policy direction. You could see a dexterous approach to a number of sensitive issues compared to what we've had before. To that extent, it's good news to me that a Port Harcourt refinery that has never worked after a series of attempts at turning it around It's now beginning to work, though at 60%, at 60,000 capacity, as against the installed capacity of 250,000 barrels per day of crude oil. But then, better late than never, and is a good start after decades of inactivity in the refinery. So to me, mixed. But I'm optimistic that it will only get better with the attempt of now, well, reported functioning of the Port Harcourt refineries and reported cases of private investors trying to come into our refineries, the existing Dangote. And what remains to be done for me is what I've advocated. I advocated that whatever it takes, we should get Port Harcourt refineries 1 and 2 to work at optimal level. So 60,000, we should keep scaling it up until it gets to its full capacity. 2, the Warri refinery should just be concessioned for 25 to 30 years. Why Kaduna refineries should be packaged and should be sold to northern interests. That would technically disaggregate the distribution structure that we have in the country, and the product will be available at every nooks and crannies of the country. And those who are in the habit of trading along the neighboring or the boundaries, I mean, in neighboring countries, will now have product to sell in Niger, in Mali, in the Republic of Benin, as against stealing, otherwise called bunkering, diverting what was meant for local consumption, which had been subsidized. So with this trend, I guess we're about to get a track as a country. And
all right, I believe we still have Mr. Oke. Second question, do you think these will help bring down the price of PMS in the Nigerian markets?
That's a natural trend to follow. It's always been a question of demand and supply. Once supply outstrips demand, you're going to see prices going south. Once demand outstrips supply, prices will naturally go north. So now that we are scaling up production and refining capacities, you started seeing, however insignificant, prices of pump prices going south. And it will further go south as we have scale up capacities of Port Harcourt from 60,000, mega 60,000 to full capacity of 250 and enhanced capacity of about 300,000. And we see a Dangote, we see a BUA coming on stream, we see the respective modular refineries, we see a concession, as I'm speculating, of Warri refineries coming on stream, and a repackaged Kaduna rejigged to take care of the northern market. You see price of petroleum products going south as a matter of definitive assurance. And it's good news for Nigerians. And that will have a kind of multiplier effect on goods and services in the country. So, and the country's economy will start to be on the rise again. So those are positive signs as to the kind of dexterous approach to management of the economy and energy resources. Of course, we were excited that we're seeing those positive signs, particularly under this current administration, that we never seen compared to others. They've tried, other previous administrations also attempted to reform, refine, turn around Port Harcourt and other refineries. Also, Dangote came full on stream during this administration. Port Harcourt has been successfully turned around during this administration. We've been able to deregulate, and we have the product under the current administration, and Nigeria will start to sing the Messiah song, Hallelujah. I'm optimistic. As an industry expert, I'm very optimistic to get it right.
All right, so the NNPCL had previously called for the privatization of the refinery. Do you think this step is in the right direction?
It wasn't NNPCL that called for the privatization of the refineries with stakeholders of NNPC, both NNPC, as a player in the sector and also a regulator was conflicted. We felt we're not going to have a prudent, effective, efficient energy sector manifesting with that kind of a mismatch scenario. We advocated the abrogation of the Petroleum Act of 1959, the coming on board of Petroleum Industry Act that took several decades before we could achieve it. That has been achieved. And part of the gains of Petroleum Industry Act is the unbundling of NNPC. So NNPC now is not NNPCL as a player, strictly a business entity like Saudi Aramco, like Petrobras of Brazil and others. So who are making a lot of money. The kind of resources generated by Saudi Aramco was such, the profit of Saudi Aramco was such that could take care of every institution, universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education in Nigeria, if it were to be here. The profit alone could fund university and tertiary education. That was what we had in the case of Saudi Aramco. That was what was expected of NNPC. So we advocated NNPC should be privatized, so that we can have an efficient NNPC that hacks to the national gains. It's taking so much from the purse of the federal government without giving much. NNPC has not been profitable, but now NNPC will be profitable. So NNPC is not a growing concern. Naturally, it means that the refineries will have to also repackage as growing concerns. That was why we said we should repackage the Port Harcourt 1 and 2 refineries for optimal level. Warri is kind of challenged with good investment. Warri could be turned around. Why Kaduna should be sold to the northern interest, because all the refineries, the Dangote is in Lagos, Port Harcourt 1 and 2 is in the south, Warri is in the south. The one that Goa is doing is also in Port Harcourt. So we needed, or we said we will need a functional, efficient refinery for the northern market, so as to take care of the markets in the north, as well as neighboring states like Niger and the rest, where people tend to divert petroleum products for local consumption. With that, that will free up our energy space for efficiency. That's what we advocated. That's what the current tradition has been implementing. And we're just about to start to see the manifestation of those good positive results that will come as a result of those effective, prudent implementation of those positive policies. With time,
all right, Prof.
We just have to take those difficult decisions for us to get going as it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your input as well.
Thanks for having me. Have a good evening.
All right, and that was Professor Yemi Uke, an oil and gas expert who joined us live from Lagos. And now to carry the rest of the stories. The Nigerian Senate has clarified a constitutional error in its resolution to remove Yakubu Danladi Umar as chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, CCT. During Tuesday's plenary, the Senate corrected its earlier citation, stating that Section 17, subsection 3 of the 5th Schedule of the 1999 Constitution, not Section 157, governs such matters. The correction followed a motion by Senate Leader Opeyemi Bamidele while addressing a misstep during Tuesday's plenary.
To correct the mistake regarding the removal from office of the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal for misconduct. The Senate notes a mistake in its earlier resolution adopted at its plenary sitting of Wednesday, 20th November 2024, regarding the removal from office of the chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal.
Correspondent Kuluju reports that the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, acknowledged the error, emphasizing that while the legal basis was initially misquoted, the decision to remove the CCT chairman for misconduct remains valid.
For your humility as the leader of the Senate, and also thank the clerk of the Senate the only group in the world, or the only person that cannot make mistake in the world, is God Almighty. Only God is above mistake. So the earlier referred section was talking about the removal of the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau, not Code of Conduct Tribunal.
The House of Representatives, like the Senate, has invoked the provisions of paragraph 17, subsection 3, part 1, 5th schedule of the Constitution to call for the removal of Umar Danladi, chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal (CCT). Honorable Julius Uhunvere, who moved the motion, cited paragraph 17, subsection 3, part 1, 5th schedule of the Constitution and section 22, subsection 3 of the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act, which mandates the President to act on an address supported by a two-thirds majority of both the Senate and the House of Representatives to remove the chairman for misconduct. The House highlighted Danladi's recent public altercation with the security guard at the Banex Plaza shopping complex in Abuja, an incident that led to his invitation by the Senate Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions. While Danladi initially appeared before the committee and admitted to the altercation, he later refused to attend further hearings, thereby obstructing the committee's investigation into the allegations against him.
Knows that a statutory institution of such magnitude is expected to be an epitome of moral rectitude and virtues of integrity, probity, and accountability. However, the official conduct of Mr. Yakubu Danladi Umar, chairman of the tribunal, has fallen short of the requisite standard of a public officer to conduct the affairs of such a tribunal.
Mr. Speaker, citing this order of the Constitution, I want to observe that the Constitution provided the President to initiate the process for the removal of the chairman of the Code of Conduct. And I believe this House is yet to receive a communication from Mr. President in that regard. So I want to preach with all sense of humility.
Thank you, Honorable Manu. And the Senate has already taken action in this subject matter. Ours is just for concurrence. And we are accordingly guided by the provision of two-thirds, of which I'm sure members, even in respect of Mr. President's directive, as well as the position already taken on bipartisan basis by the Senate, should be respected by this hallowed chamber.
In another development, President Bola Tinubu has requested the House of Representatives to confirm Olufemi Oluyede as the substantive Chief of Army Staff. The request, read by Speaker Tajuddin Abbas during Tuesday's plenary, is in line with Section 218 of Section 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended and Section 18, Subsection 1 of the Armed Forces Act. Tinubu described Oluyede as well suited for the role due to his professionalism and contributions to the military, urging the House to expedite the confirmation process. Former Governor Yahya Bello of Kogi State has returned to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) to honor another invitation over alleged misappropriation of funds. Bello went to the office with his lawyer on Tuesday morning following a Supreme Court judgment which dismissed a suit brought by some states of the Federation on the constitutionality of the anti-graft agency. Bello drove himself to the EFCC's office in his car with his lawyers. At the last hearing on November 14, the EFCC had sought for adjournment till November 27 in the fresh case it instituted against Bello, saying that the 30-day window was still running for the summons earlier issued. And I'll move over to the foreign desk for more news.
This is news from the international scene. Russia has expelled a British diplomat after accusing him of espionage, according to reports. The TASS news agency cited Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova as saying that the ministry has also summoned the British ambassador. Footage shows the British ambassador's car pulling up to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Moscow. State news agencies reported the country's FSB security service accused the diplomat, whose photo was shown on TV bulletins, of providing false information on his documents and carrying out espionage and sabotage activities. It added that the diplomat was a replacement for one of 6 UK diplomats expelled in August, also on espionage charges. It comes amid worsening relations between the UK and Russia since the latter's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Last week, it emerged the UK lifted restrictions on Ukraine using British-supplied Storm Shadow missiles on targets inside Russia for the first time. President Vladimir Putin cited the move alongside the launching of US-supplied longer-range missiles at Russian territory as behind Russia's decision to launch a new hypersonic missile at the Ukrainian city of Dnipro on Thursday. Expulsion of diplomats have become increasingly common since the war began. Earlier this year, British diplomat Captain Adrian Corgill was